Heavyweight contender Lucas Browne has taken to social media in the past few days. He's been challenging internet trolls and naysayers to actually come down to his gym and say that stuff to his face, which I'm sure he won't have any takers on that. Lucas Browne is a very big man, 6'4", 260, whatever he is. I seriously doubt anybody's going to be going down there to say anything to his face other than, I love you, Lucas Browne. But yeah, he made a video about that. And he's also made a video about his wish list of fighters he would like to fight when he eventually returns to the ring. Now, I'm not sure what the status is in terms of his ban, because he was caught for a second time for performance-enhancing drugs. You know my history talking about Lucas Browne. You know that I think that the failed drug test that he had for the Chigayev fight was dubious. The circumstances around it were suspect, in my opinion. But the second failed drug test that he had in the lead up to the now cancelled fight against Shannon Briggs for the WBA regular belt, I really don't know what to say about that. He did come out in one of these recent statements on social media. It was actually a video, and he said that it was a pre-workout which he tested positive for in the build up to the the failed fight with Shannon Briggs. So make of that what you will. I'm not really going to talk about that particularly in this video. Maybe I'll do a separate video about it if I have more information on it. But for this video, I just want to talk about the list that you can see on screen that Lucas Browne has put together of fighters he would like to face. Now, interestingly, he's got David Price top of the list. I don't know if he put this list together, because this is very recent, in the past day or so. He's put this list together on Instagram. I don't know if this is prior to David Price losing to Christian Hammer or post that fight. If it's post that fight, I find it very interesting that he wants to fight poor David Price. I'm not sure Price is in any position to be accepting challenges at this point. He's probably soul searching and thinking about whether or not he actually wants to continue in the sport of boxing. So yeah, a strange choice at number one if this list was made after Price's loss to Christian Hammer. Number two, he's got Martin Rogan. Now, as far as I'm aware, Martin Rogan is retired. So again, I'm not sure why Martin Rogan is in that position. Maybe these are individuals who he has some type of personal beef with. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's people that have maybe said disparaging things about him as a fighter or as a man. He's been very upset by people calling him a drug cheat. And, that was one of the things he was calling out internet trolls and naysayers for. He said, come down and call me a drug cheat to my face. Are some of these fighters also people that have called him a drug cheat? I don't know. I'm just wondering why he would have Martin Rogan as number two, when Martin Rogan, as far as I'm aware, has been retired for quite some time now. Number three, he has Christian Hammer. Well, that would make sense that Christian Hammer's now beaten David Price, and he beat a contemporary in his previous fight. Those are two good wins for Christian Hammer. So he's on a little bit of a roll at the moment. So that kind of makes sense. Dillian Whyte, of course, makes sense because him and Dillian have been going back and forth on social media for some time now. Lucas Browne wasn't interested in fighting Dillian Whyte before because Lucas Browne had a guaranteed shot at the WBA regular belt. But the landscape of boxing changes very, very quickly. And now Dillian Whyte is in the power position and Lucas Browne is out in the cold. So maybe he'll change his mind. Maybe this list right here is an indication that he has already changed his mind and actually would like to fight Dillian Whyte now. Dillian Whyte is ranked highly in the world. He's now number 4 in the WBC and virtually knocking on the door of a world title shot. So Lucas Browne, I'm sure, would be rethinking that whole situation with Dillian Whyte. All right, after Dillian Whyte, he's got Dereck Chisora. Chisora's coming off a loss to Whyte, so that might be one of the most realistic fights that could get made. Chisora, we know, is a tough guy. He's fought a lot of people. And in the strange mind of Dereck Chisora, I somehow think that Lucas Browne fight will probably appeal to him. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to understand Dereck Chisora, but you can imagine him saying, yeah, I'll fight that Lucas Browne. Then again, maybe not. He'll probably do an AFL interview in the next couple of weeks and say he'd never fight Lucas Browne. You never know what to expect with Del Boy, but I think that fight would make sense. Kind of a crossroads fight between the two. Then below Chisora, you got Erkan Tepa. Again, kind of understandable. Tepa's coming off a loss to Christian Hammer. Browne's coming off his difficult situation with drugs, failed drug tests and whatnot, and probably a ban. Erkan Tepa also has had his issues with failing drug tests. So the two of them fighting each other, I guess it makes sense. Below that, you got Eric Molina. There'll be another crossroads fight. Below that, Andy Ruiz. If I was Lucas Browne, I would stay away from Ruiz. I think that style-wise, that's not a good matchup for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Lucas Browne would surprise me there, but Andy Ruiz, I know he looks like a blob, but he's got fast hands and he packs some power there. And he is quite skillful coming forward. He picks his spots and he's good at counterpunching on the front foot. He's a young, hungry guy. And, some people are going to say, yeah, he is hungry. That man too hungry. Not hungry enough for success and far too hungry for KFC and Burger King. But all fat jokes aside, he's a dangerous fighter. So personally, I'm a little surprised to see that name on Lucas Browne's wish list. Below him is Malik Scott. Again, another fight that makes sense, kind of a crossroads fight. And I'm saying crossroads here when Lucas Browne hasn't actually been beaten professionally. But given the fact that he's been embroiled in these failed drug tests, controversies, it's almost as if he has taken a loss outside of the ring without actually taking a loss in the ring, if you get what I'm saying. His credibility, his market value has taken a loss. So in that sense, it would be kind of a crossroads fight. Can he redeem himself? Is, kind of the situation here. Because a lot of boxing fans have lost faith in Lucas Browne about whether he's actually a clean athlete or not. So, yeah, Malik Scott, understandable. Charles Martin, I mean, I'm not sure why Charles Martin is in the WBC top 15, and I'm really not sure why he's on Lucas Browne's wish list. Charles Martin is not in any fit state mentally to be boxing. Anybody who's seen his recent social media videos and what have you, you'll know that this guy is not in any kind of state to be boxing. I'm sure he hasn't been near a gym doing any type of serious training for a long time. Probably not since the Anthony Joshua fight. So, I don't know about the Charles Martin one. Duopa, that's a credible opponent. He's coming off a loss. Again, that would be another kind of crossroads fight. Duopa's a good fighter. Tough man. He took the Povetkin fight at short notice when Povetkin had just failed a drug test. Duopa clearly wasn't in fighting shape. He was over there in Russia to just watch Povetkin fight Berman Stavern. He didn't have any idea that he'd be fighting. And when he got in the ring, he didn't even have boxing boots. That's how unprepared he was. So I don't really think Duopa should lose too much market value off the back of that Povetkin loss. He has to lose some, yes, because at the end of the day, he did get knocked out. And that has to affect him psychologically, if not physically. So now he's been knocked out in such a brutal way. And yes, he was stopped by Wilder, but this knockout loss to Povetkin was far more brutal and far more conclusive. So, you have to wonder about where he's going to be at mentally coming back. Again, him versus Browne, that's interesting. Manuel Charr really has been going downhill over the past couple of years. So, yeah, I can see Lucas Browne coming back and fighting him. Manuel Charr, that seems quite realistic, actually. That might be one of the most makeable fights on the list. And finally, you've got Junlong Zhang, who is somebody I've never heard of. I don't know if this guy's a Chinese fighter. Is he the big... No, he's not the big 7-foot guy. He's called something else. Is this a Chinese guy or a Japanese guy? I'm not sure. Excuse my ignorance. I've got no idea who the final guy on the list is. So let me know what you think about Lucas Browne trying to get back into the mix of the world title rankings. Do you want to see Lucas Browne fight again? Have you lost all faith in Lucas Browne? Do you think that he's been unfortunate in terms of these failed drug tests? Or do you think that he is a knowing and willing drug cheat? And as I say, how do you think he would fare against any of these guys on this list? Which fights would you like to see? Because Lucas Browne, say what you want to say about him, he's usually in entertaining fights. So from an entertainment perspective, which of these fights would you like? Lucas Browne versus Dillian Whyte? Lucas Browne versus David Price? Excuse my laughter, right? But it's a bit fresh, in the memory, Price getting stopped by Hammer, to be thinking about Price getting in the ring again, particularly against somebody who can punch as hard as Lucas Browne at this stage. Maybe you'd like to see Lucas Browne, Andy Ruiz, Lucas Browne, Eric Molina, Chisora, whoever. Drop your thoughts and views in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.